Welcome into the matchups breakdown right here on DraftKings TV. Today's Friday slate is a big one. 14 games, the 3-game appetizer last night, and now 14 games tonight. We're going to break it down for you here with our analysts. First up is Andrew Wiggins. You know him from the DFS Edge basketball podcast and across DKTV as well. Then we have Adam Levitan. You know him from the Edge podcast as well, and the Sweat Show throughout the football season. And then we have Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob, over there on Twitter and across multiple writings on the internet. Gentlemen, how are you today? Are you ready to break down a 14-game big slate here in the NBA?
Overwhelmed but excited.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed. I need Rob to just take me through this slate and let me know who to play.
Why do they do if there's a 14-game slate, why do they have to put like 6 games every 30 minutes? Why can't they stagger it? Why don't we have an NFL Red Zone channel to some extent? When these games start ending all at the same time, it's fun for nobody, right? This is one problem, along with the jerseys, that needs to be fixed in the end.
All right, Rob, I'll get Adam Silver on the line. I will let him know of your grievances, and we can break down tonight's slate from there. We are going to kick it off with Dallas at Orlando, a game that is middling from pace, middling from implied totals for both teams. Adam, who are you focusing on here in this Dallas versus Orlando matchup?
Yeah, I think on paper, the total is over 200 and it looks like it's an appetizing spot maybe for guys on both sides, but it's crowded. I mean, with the trade that happened with Orlando, they got rid of Tobias, and I think Ersan and Brandon Jennings are both going to play tonight, which kind of mucks things up a lot. So the guy whose minutes I think are most secure in this game, at least on the Orlando side, is Victor Oladipo. I mean, 37.7 minutes per game over his last 6. And anytime you give me a talented guy like Oladipo, who I think really hasn't played to his potential yet in his career and really yet this season, like you tell me he's going to play somewhere between 35 and 40 minutes against the Mavericks. I think Oladipo was a fine play. I don't think he's any type of standout play, but I do think he's, along with Aaron Gordon, probably the best play in this game.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon, you have to assume with the move of Tobias Harris, going to see as many minutes as he can handle moving forward for the Orlando Magic, coming off of that amazing dunk contest performance. Moving on to Detroit at Washington. And this is a Detroit team that has added and subtracted a bit here, Andrew, coming off of the trade deadline. Who do you like for the Pistons against Washington?
Yeah, I want to wait and see how it shakes out with the forwards. I think the most actionable thing right now is that Brandon Jennings is out of town. So here you had a guy that was playing 15, 20, even low 20s minutes some nights. He's gone now. So you have Steve Blake. I don't think he's going to approach 20 minutes. Maybe he's a 10 to 15-minute guy. So that means more minutes for Reggie Jackson. He had leaked down to like 28 to 30 minutes. I think we might see him in the mid-30s again, and that's a big jump. He's priced for less minutes. He hadn't been playing great, but here he gets an up-tempo contest. I think that he could thrive in that, and it's a good spot for him to pay off that $6.5K price tag.
Changes in Washington as well, taking on Markieff Morris from Phoenix. See how that plays out for Washington, who I think currently sits in 10th place in the East, trying to get into the playoffs. Let's look at Knicks and the Nets, the battle for the boroughs here between two teams on the outside looking in from the NBA, even the mediocre NBA at the present moment. But Rob, who do you like in this contest? Is there somebody who stands out above the rest?
Yeah, I mean, it's like picking out which pile of poop looks best, but that's what you get when you got the Knicks and the Nets going at each other. The obvious pick here is Porzingis at 7,300. Last time the Knicks and Nets played, Zinger put up 12, 10, 3, and 2, I believe, and that was with no Carmelo. And usually you'd think Melo being in there limits Porzingis's usage, but the thing about the matchups tonight is that the Lopez brothers will be guarding each other, so cancel them out. Shooting guards and point guards match up against each other, which leaves Joe Johnson and Thaddeus Young to guard Melo and Porzingis if they roll out their usual starting lineup. Regardless of how bad the Knicks have been lately, the Nets do not stand a chance in hell of stopping both of these guys with just these two defenders. So one of these two is going to go absolutely off tonight. My money's on Porzingis because once the Nets realize that Joe J cannot guard Melo, they're going to have to switch Thaddeus Young over and bring in Bargnani. So that's going to put Bargnani on Porzingis. Good luck, bro. It's the biggest night of the year for Porzingis. This feels like Drago versus Apollo.
That's a metaphor that might work. We'll keep an eye on this one and see what Porzingis can do, especially with Melo back out there on the court for the Knicks against the Nets tonight. Moving on, Adam, looking at Miami at Atlanta, talking about the trade deadline. Atlanta did move some guards around, brought in a guard, but also didn't move Horford, didn't move some other guys that were speculated to be out there. On the other side of the ball, Miami made some moves as well. And coming into tonight, there are two guys for the Heat that you're focusing on for building some lineups.
Yeah, the Heat are probably one spot we can really look at where they're thinned out by injury because Hassan Whiteside is suspended and Chris Bosh has that unfortunate situation with the blood clots. So they're both out tonight. I mean, they really only have three bigs. Amari Stoudemire is going to start, and he'll be supported by Josh McRoberts and Udonis Haslem. Amari Stoudemire, although he is decrepit, and I normally don't play guys who I consider to be decrepit, I mean, he's coming off this long layoff on the year. He averages 0.985 DraftKings points per minute. And given this situation and given this matchup against the Hawks team that is so undersized and struggles to rebound, I really think Amari Stoudemire is going to play 25 minutes and push towards like 1, maybe 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. So really good spot for Amari Stoudemire at a cheap price. And then also Dwayne Wade, we know his usage just goes off the charts when Chris Bosh is off the court. 36.7 usage rate without Bosh on the court this year. That would be enough to lead the league ahead of Russell Westbrook. So I know Wade's knee is a little bit sore. I still think he'll be out there chucking up a ton of shots tonight.
Let's keep moving here, Andrew, to Toronto at Chicago. Butler obviously lost to injury for a while here. You have Derrick Rose as a possibility of being used yet again. Has he found a little bit of his old self? Is Rose somebody that we can start to trust, or has it been a flash in the pan over the past couple of weeks that we'll see regress again?
Well, Dan, I'll address that in 1 second. I just want to say about that last game. If Adam is recommending two old dudes, you got to know it's a really, really good place because, I mean, just don't want to hear that. So
he's an ageist. We know.
On Wade, they're in good spots tonight. But Derrick Rose has been playing incredible ball. Usage rate through the roof. Top 5 in the league since Jimmy Butler's been out. He's taking 20 shots or more a game. He's coming off a back-to-back, but I'm not overly concerned. He didn't play a ton of minutes. I think he came in around 30. And you know what? He's been okay on back-to-back. So if this game is going to stay competitive, the Bulls have really struggled to keep games competitive. He's going to have a big game. I do think that they'll show up tonight. They can't keep getting blown out every game. So look for Rose to have another game north of 40 fantasy points.
North of 40 fantasy points, a good value there. Minnesota at Memphis, our next game up. And Adam, a trade there gets Jeff Green moved out of town. Lance Stevenson coming in. Who are you targeting from this contest?
Yeah, like the wing situation on Memphis is interesting. Obviously, they lost Courtney Lee and they got rid of Jeff Green also. I mean, depending on who can play for them in terms of their acquisitions, they could be looking at a ton of minutes for both Tony Allen and Matt Barnes. And while Tony Allen is a guy I don't normally like to roster because he's kind of steals dependent and a defensive stopper, I mean, Matt Barnes has been balling when he's had opportunities this year. And I think tonight is a chance for him to have a pretty extended run. I mean, I'd be surprised if they got away with playing Matt Barnes less than 30 minutes tonight.
You don't think Derek Fisher steals some of his minutes? We continue on here in looking at the matchup breakdown, DKTV, and we have Philadelphia at New Orleans. And this game has two teams that have struggled this year. Obviously, Philadelphia continuing to look towards the top pick of the draft if they can get there. But who are you focusing on, Adam? Is there somebody that you think is worthwhile in this game, or is this one you might pass over for all intents and purposes?
No. We don't pass over Sixers games, Dan. First of all, and we definitely don't. And I don't like passing over New Orleans games either. Like, they're really bad defensively too. So I think this is a really interesting game. It's pretty crowded in Philadelphia, assuming that Nerlens Noel is going to play along with Jahlil Okafor. But on the other side, to me, it's this great spot for Drew Holiday, who is out for revenge. Was not happy with the way things went down here in Philadelphia and facing a defense in the Sixers that is so bad against point guards. I mean, people want to talk about the Lakers and the Blazers being bad against point guards. To me, the Sixers are the preeminent team to target point guards with. Drew Holiday will come off the bench, but we know that with no Tyreek Evans, Drew is going to play 33, 34 minutes, maybe even. So really excellent spot for Drew.
Moving on to one of the higher paced games of the night, a good contest at the small forward position, obviously with Indiana at Oklahoma City. Andrew, two of the top wing players in Durant and Paul George in this one, though George has been a bit of a roller coaster ride this year where you get some max effort, high end performances, and then some middle ground where you're definitely overspending for the output. Who do you like in this contest?
Yeah, Paul George is more of a tournament play for me, but he's maybe my favorite tournament play on the entire slate. He's a guy that was complaining about tired legs, just felt worn down. Now he's had some time off during the All-Star break. Of course, he did play in the All-Star game where he went absolutely nuts. I think he hit 9 threes. So maybe he's a little bit hot coming into this one as well. His price reflects the struggles. He's 8.2K. I think people will mostly stay away from him on this slate. It's just a little bit of a tough price point. But in tournaments, if they're going to stay close in this game, it's going to be all him. I do think that he's going to have a monster game. And then on the other side, you've got Russell Westbrook, who I like for tournaments and for cash games. His floor is the highest of anyone on the slate. You can really only afford one elite stud tonight. He's that guy for me because he has that high floor and he has as much upside as anyone in the entire NBA.
What about this Charlotte at Milwaukee game, Andrew? Anybody here that you're focusing on, or is this a game that maybe we do pass over from a daily fantasy perspective?
We've got 14 games tonight. I think we can throw this one out.
Throw it out the window with the bathwater. We move on to Houston at Phoenix. And Rob, coming back to you on this one, Phoenix and Houston, high-paced game. Anybody that you're focusing on from the Phoenix side of the ball?
Yeah, I'm 100% serious when I say this, that of all the Suns games that I've watched, I swear I haven't seen Devin Booker miss an open jump shot since he started getting like starters minutes. He feels like a Klay Thompson in the making. And on top of all that, he has the single worst on-ball defender in basketball history guarding him tonight in James Harden. Then that's maybe a reasonable switch off of screens and stuff and all that, but Harden is assigned to him. Booker goes for 30 plus tonight in his biggest breakout game as a pro. And with so many elite options out there at shooting guard tonight, absolute no-brainer for me. The Suns may stink, but if you get a chance, I implore you to watch this kid shoot the rock. It is a thing of beauty.
And we're going 30 plus NBA points or 30 plus DraftKings points. What's the call here, Rob?
30 plus NBA points, which will translate to 40-ish, 50-ish DraftKings points. So
now, Adam, you have somebody else on the Phoenix Suns as well that you're focusing on for tonight's game.
Yeah, I think coming out of the trade deadline, like the biggest situation was Markieff Morris leaving the Suns, and it just leaves such a gaping hole in their front court because he was playing a ton of minutes and he was getting so much usage. So we don't know who's going to start yet. I suspect it might be Alex Len. Like they have, when Markieff has been out earlier last month, they have gone with a Twin Towers look of Tyson Chandler and Alex Len. And Alex Len is a guy that gets around the fantasy point per minute. So if I can get Alex Len in the starting lineup, or even if he's not, I still think that Alex Len's going to play 25 to 30 minutes, which is more than enough for me. I think he's down at 4.2K, just way, way, way too cheap.
Now, looking at the highest paced game of the night, one where the Golden State Warriors get back on to possible winning ways at Portland, a game that will be very high paced, a backcourt in Portland that typically gives up some points. But Rob, you're looking at somebody from that Portland backcourt to have a big night tonight.
Yeah, I mean, how do you pick a point guard tonight? It feels like every single option on the board is going to drop like 50 fantasy points, does it not? I'm writing Lillard because of two things. The first of which, usage. The second of which, the Dame factor. First of all, no one is going to have the rock in their hands more tonight than Dame. Even Russell Westbrook. This Warriors-Blazers game is going to be a track meet, like you said, and will probably roll the night in terms of total possessions. I mean, who else do you want on your team with this in play other than Steph Curry? Damian Lillard, right? This man was born to jack up 30 shots in a game like this, which leads me to the Dame factor, meaning Damian Lillard has it. I'm still not quite sure how to define it, but I can tell you if there's another military draft for a world war, this is a man you want in the trenches next to you. He was snubbed for the All-Star game once again, and other than Russ in Oklahoma City, no one plays with a chip on their shoulder quite like this guy. So with the Warriors in the house, the Moda Center is going to be rocking, and I'm telling you, this dude is going to catch blue flame fire tonight that is worthy only of Steph Curry royalty. It's going to be a gutter war, and I will take the emotional roller coaster in Dame versus the bona fide superstar in Steph.
So if we're putting together a foxhole of NBA players, Damian Lillard is someone you want by your side. All right, well, we'll come back to that.
Kemba and CP3. Those are my three guys. I know I'm going to survive the war.
Going for the height disadvantage, but I can appreciate that. Denver at Sacramento. This game, another high-paced one. Andrew, Sacramento, a team that many expected to make a ton of moves heading into the trade deadline, but we don't get anything really from them. And we have this contest coming out with George Karl still there, still part of that coaching staff. Who do you like in this contest?
So Charles Barkley said the biggest acquisition yesterday was Randy Foye by Oklahoma City. Can't say I agree with that. But for tonight, we have no more Randy Foye in Denver. DJ Augustine is there now, but I don't think he's going to suit up tonight. So you got a lot of minutes for the guards. Jameer Nelson's still hurt. I think Gary Harris is going to play 35 or 40 minutes. He's 4.3K. We've talked about a lot of expensive players. You got to go cheap somewhere. He's a guy I'm locking in because you know the minutes will be there. And he's been pretty good, and he gets a great matchup against Sacramento. On the other side, you got Rajon Rondo, 8.3K. He's played so well. Feels like he gets overlooked. People just kind of ignore him. And now he gets a matchup against Moutier, who loves turning the ball over. So I think Rondo's going to get a bunch of steals, buckets in transition. This is going to be a sloppy, high-paced game. It seems like a great spot for Rondo.
It does feel like a triple-double waiting to happen for Rajon Rondo with the pace of the game, the shots Denver likes to put up. And as you said, Moutier enjoying turning over the basketball as much as he does. Moving on to Boston at Utah. Now, Adam, I'm looking at this game for the Utah front court. I like to target against Boston because of their height challenge ways at times. Well, all the time, I guess I should say. Height doesn't change from game to game. But who do you like from the Utah front court?
Yeah, we know that we prefer to use big guys against the Celtics, and it's a really almost a perfect spot for Rudy Gobert. The one hesitation I have is that they played last night in Washington and then have to, take the flight out to Utah, which is a long flight, then play the very next day. But that's kind of just a minor ding to me. I think Rudy Gobert is just playing really, really well right now. And it's almost a fluke that he hasn't had one of his 6 or 7 block games anytime recently. So I think tonight is as good a spot as any for Rudy Gobert to just, a floor of 10 to 12 rebounds and a ceiling of 6 blocks or so.
And moving on to the last contest of the evening, and one that is probably the most imbalanced as Rob stretches out, gets ready to talk about one of his favorite plays of the evening. And I'm sure the viewers can hear it. There's a certain tone in their ears right now that they're getting ready to in a game that could very potentially be a blowout, one that could see big minutes for men off the bench for San Antonio. So, Rob, if you want to talk to us about Kyle Anderson. No, of course not Kyle Anderson. Rob, who would you like to talk about here from the San Antonio Spurs?
Is it that obvious? I've only recommended this play in every single one of our shows so far, but it's because it's always the best play on the board, and I genuinely mean that. So you've got Adam over here dropping points, fantasy points per minute stats. I think, what'd you say, like 0.86 for Amari Stoudemire or something? Let me give you some stats. I actually went out of my way to write these down. In a measly 9 minutes of play last night, Boban put up 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. That is about 1.23 fantasy points per minute. I challenge any of you to find me better average value on the board for the price than Boban. The problem with playing Boban in DFS, as always, is the number of minutes he gets. Sometimes Pop doesn't play him at all. Sometimes he runs him 10 minutes. Sometimes he gets 25 plus. You honestly never know. However, the Spurs are on the second leg of a back-to-back, coming off a blowout loss, missing 2 key players, and are going up against the worst team in the Western Conference, which could mean, like you said, a Spurs bloodbath. All of those things, once again, lead to Boban. Did you see that pass last night to David West? He is John Stockton in 7'3" mutant form. I swear it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say tonight against the putrid, empty the bench Lakers is Boban's biggest DFS night in his career. We are going to be telling our grandchildren how we were alive for February 19th, 2016, the night Boban had his first and only podium game.
I hope he's wearing that yellow bubble vest I've seen in images spread around. It is an amazing thing to behold, his fashion sense, that is for sure.
Nothing brings out the eyes, Dan, like mustard yellow, let me tell you.
Let's move on to some predictions for tonight. Who you guys think are going to have the best nights overall? Adam, let's start with you. Who are you focusing on as either a top value or your top play of the night?
Yeah, I think I already mentioned it, but Drew Holiday, all the revenge, best possible matchup. Tyreek Evans out. I could see easily career or season best game for Drew Holiday tonight. Out for blood. Out for blood.
We've had a lot of phrases used on this show that could see some big outputs as we move on to Andrew Wiggins. Who's your prediction for tonight? A big game from whom?
Yeah, the other thing about that Drew game is it's a double revenge. You got Ish, Andrew, both revenge. Love it.
Would you call it a revenge-ish game or no? All right, that's just me. All right, fair enough.
I'm all in on Paul George. He's my guy tonight. I'm expecting one of those outings we saw early in the year where he gave us 55 fantasy points. Great game environment. He's fresh. He's coming off a monster game in the All-Star game. Get him in your lineups.
Let's close it out with Rob. Who are you focusing on as the big man on campus tonight, the guy that you think is going to have the biggest output?
I have 3 predictions, okay? 3. The first of which, Porzingis will put up his first triple-double of his career tonight. That's the big one. The second one, the Phoenix Suns will win their game straight up against the Houston Rockets. That is a straight-up victory at home. Don't ask me why. I can ramble on for 30 minutes about the Rockets, but that's prediction number 2. And my third new prediction is that Andrew Wiggins is going to lose every single cash game that he plays because he's putting Derrick Rose in his lineup, who asked Hoiberg to come out of the game last night in the third quarter. You're going to put a back-to-back Derrick Rose in your lineup. Just find me, invite me to any cash game you got out there. I'll be happy to take you on straight up.
Some great analysis as always. A challenge thrown down. The glove has been taken off and slapping Andrew across the face right there. We'll see if that challenge.
Biased Bulls fan.
We will see how that works out. We'll keep you all up to date on whether or not Andrew flies out to the West Coast to throttle Rob in person or just via a head-to-head matchup here tonight on this massive 14-game slate. Gentlemen, a great job. If you had to, is there a value play, Andrew? Is there one guy from a value perspective that you think is above all else? Or is this a pretty standard night until we get some injury news later on today?
Got to be Amari. Get on the Amari train. Old man Amari still got something left in the tank.
Well, if Adam is on an old man, we know that there has to be something to that outlook and to that matchup. Gentlemen, great job. We appreciate the insight. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and watching the matchup breakdown right here on DraftKings TV. We'll be back with you next week with more on the NBA.